Hello, I am Police Chief Dave Newlan of the Cape Grove Police Department. I am joined by representatives of the Lee County Sheriff's Office, the Fort Myers Police Department, Florida Highway Patrol, and Lee Health. I also want to welcome all of our media partners for covering this event today. Today we are kicking off the beginning of the National 3D Month. Lee County changed it to 4D Month years ago to raise awareness about drunk driving, drug, distracted, and drowsy driving. I will begin by talking about drowsy driving. Drowsy driving can be caused by things such as lack of sleep, late night shift work, sleep apnea, health issues. Drowsiness can lead to impaired attention, slowing down mental processing, poor judgment, and poor decision making. Crashes from drowsy driving can occur anytime. What are the warning signs of drowsy driving? Difficulty remembering the past few miles driven, maybe missing your exit, yawning or blinking frequently, hitting the rumble strip of the side of the road or center lane. If you notice the warning signs of drowsy driving, please pull over to a safe location, perhaps a rest stop, or if you're not alone, have another licensed driver take over. I would now like to bring up Lieutenant Greg Bueno of the Florida Highway Patrol.
Good morning. On behalf of the Florida Highway Patrol, I'd like to wish everybody a safe, happy holiday season. Emergency responders from a variety of agencies will be working 24/7 throughout this holiday period. So I'd like to take a moment and remind all motorists that Florida does have a move-over law. And that law simply states, when traveling on a multi-lane highway, approaching a stopped emergency vehicle, utility vehicle, or service vehicle, and that service vehicle may be a road ranger vehicle, a tow truck, a sanitation vehicle, you're required to shift over a lane away from that stopped emergency vehicle. In the event you cannot make that lane change safely due to traffic congestion, or if you're traveling on a 2-lane highway, you're required to reduce your speed by 20 miles an hour below the posted speed limit. Failing to move over not only puts your own personal safety at risk, it puts other lives at risk as well. Failing to move over, you may result in a penalty for $161 or 3 points onto your driving record. To be a safe driver in the state of Florida requires you to be responsible. To be responsible requires you to abide by the posted speed limit at all times. It also requires you to reduce your speed in adherence with adverse weather conditions such as fog or rain. It also requires you to drive cautiously through construction zones and requires you to move over for stopped emergency vehicles. Thank you very much, and at this time I'd like to introduce Lieutenant Dennis Petracca with the Lee County Sheriff's Office.
Good morning. From 2014 through 2016, the number of distracted driving crashes in Lee County have been approximately over 7,000 crashes. Distracted driving is an activity that takes drivers' focus off the roadway and traffic. Types of distraction: visual, taking your eyes off the roadway; manual, taking your hands off the steering wheel; and mental, taking your mind off of what you're doing. Texting and driving is the most dangerous distraction. A car traveling approximately 55 miles an hour covers more than 80 feet every second. Sending a text that takes your eyes off the road for 4.6 seconds at 55 miles an hour, that is driving nearly the entire length of a football field. During daylight hours, approximately 600,000 drivers are using cell phones while driving. This behavior creates a potential for death and injuries on our roadways. Teens are reported to be the largest age group of distracted driving at this time of fatal crashes. Teens are not only the distracted drivers on the roadways, this is every driver's problem. According to NHTSA, the National Traffic Highway Safety Administration, nearly 1/3 of all drivers between the ages of 18 to 64 years of age read or send a text or email messages while driving. This behavior leads to 420,000 injuries and more than 3,100 deaths every year in the United States. In Florida, 1 of every 6 car crashes are caused by distracted driving. From 2014 through 2016, Lee County saw the number of crashes due to distracted driving increase by 27%. Parents need to lead by example by never driving distracted. Teach your teens about the dangers of driving distracted and the responsibility that comes with driving. We all must do our part. Arrive alive, don't text and drive. Watch the road, not the phone. This time I'd like to introduce Captain Jay Rodriguez with Fort Myers Police Department.
Good morning. I'm here to talk about something that even in today's day and age with all the resources that we have continues to plague us, and that's drunk driving. Daily, 29 people in the United States are involved in alcohol-impaired accidents that cost them their lives. That's one life every 50 minutes. To bring those numbers down to Lee County, since January 2017, January 1st to November 27th, 2017, there's been 104 traffic fatalities in Lee County. Of those 95 crashes, 57 of them involved a motor vehicle and resulted in 64 fatalities. 3 crashes involved bicycle, resulting in 3 bicycle fatalities. 16 of the crashes involved motorcycle, resulting in 16 driver fatalities. Of the 102 traffic crashes, 24 of them dealt with alcohol-related incidents. 4 was distracted driving, and 10 dealt with drugs. What we ask you to do is please plan ahead. Some recommendations is to have a designated driver. Call someone to pick you up. Stay overnight if you can't leave and you have the means to stay overnight. If you did not plan ahead, there's programs out there with Budweiser and AAA to get a tow truck to tow your vehicle and take you home safely. We also know about Uber, we know about Lyft, we know about all these other resources that we have to get people home safely. This hits home for us. Just over the holiday weekend in the city of Fort Myers, we had a pedestrian that was fatally struck by an alleged drunk driver. That's it for me. I'm going to introduce Dr. Kasiewicz to talk about drug driving and lead trauma health.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kasiewicz. I'm a trauma surgeon. Unfortunately, I see a lot of these patients that are coming in from motor vehicle crashes. We see all sorts of injuries, but motor vehicle crashes are number one injury. And of these, over half of our patients, about 48 to 52% of the patients that we see have drugs or alcohol on board at the time of the crash. And these are a significant problem, not only seeing these patients when they arrive being on these substances, they also affect the way we treat the patients. They're more difficult to treat, especially if a patient has been on long-term pain medications and things of that sort. Just talking a little bit about the drug driving facts. Use of illicit drugs or misuse of prescription drugs affect driving similarly to alcohol. It affects patients' judgment. We see a lot of patients with this. 10 million people, according to the NIH, have been driving under the influence of illicit drugs in the past year, so this is a very significant problem. After alcohol, marijuana is the number one drug that's linked to drug driving. In 2010, more than a quarter of drug drivers in fatal crashes were aged 50 years or older. So this is something that we want to be aware of. I don't want to see these patients. We have to see them. We'll treat them, but it's something that everyone should be aware of. So with that, just to make some closing remarks, I thank everybody that has spoken, and I think it's important to understand the 4 Ds: distracted driving, drowsy driving, driving under the influence, and then drug driving. The safety tips that I'd like to just remind everybody should know this, but just designate a driver. There's lots of programs, as he mentioned, or if you're on drugs or if you're on drinking and driving, don't get behind the wheel. There's Lyft, there's Uber, there's AAA that'll pick up people to drive them where they need to go. So let's just have a safe holiday season. Don't text and drive. Don't text and drive and drink and drive. All these things are distractions. So again, let's have a healthy, happy holiday season. Thank you.
Can we ask a question to law enforcement? I'm guessing. Obviously, marijuana laws are constantly changing. Is there a thought process or a concerted effort with the legalization of some forms of medical marijuana and things that will be considered, or is there a message you have for people who have it legally about driving that you want to share?
I don't speak for other departments. I'll just say on behalf of the Cape Grove Police Department, the medical marijuana issue topic has been obviously been brought up. Still, I think a lot of things need to be worked out in the state of Florida. As you've seen in other areas around here, are still working on local ordinances, whether they're going to approve or not approve medical marijuana in the area. But when that does happen, obviously, as far as public safety, we all need to take precautions and give advice out there to do the same thing. Be accountable for your actions, drive safely. And it's the same thing if you're impaired by anything. It's as simple as an app that you can use to avoid driving. So, just be responsible, be accountable for what you do.
With the 4Ds, is that a particular problem this time of year with the holiday season? Are there any trends you can point to with the holidays coming up about that issue?
Obviously, with holidays, there's with the events, with parties, with things like that, family get-togethers, there's things more likely that could happen. That's why we remind people of the 4Ds. Obviously, that can happen anytime year-round with other things, like drowsy driving, for example. But these are things we want to give as reminders to the public, the things to think about that when you get behind the wheel. Remember those things that you can remind yourself of to avoid, obviously, to avoid getting into a bad accident or hurting somebody else.
Is that it?
Are you still seeing an increase as well? And can you speak to, teens using social media while driving? We've had a lot of national cases of people Facebook Living while driving, Snapchatting while driving, trying to get to that high speed. Can you speak to that extent as well and kind of that trend with young drivers?
I don't personally have any statistical data to I could tell you that as far as how that as far as contributing to accidents. I'm not sure if anybody else has any data on that or.
Well, I think anything that takes your eyes off the road, your hands off the wheel, or your mind off driving is a distraction. And of course, the accessibility that our cell phones bring inside the car presents a problem. And social media is a big part of that. So, of course, our advice is to 100% focus on the task at hand, which is driving. Put your phones down.
I think we've done something with you recently, Lieutenant, about the state law and the abilities to pull someone over. Obviously, your message, though, is whether or not the state law supports your ability to pull them over, you're hoping that the phone goes down either way.
Well, right. I mean, currently it's a secondary offense, which we've spoken before about, but it still doesn't go back to common sense. And that common sense is you want to eliminate any distraction in that vehicle, which, again, part of that is putting that phone down, putting your sandwich down, putting your drink down, putting your makeup on before you leave the home, those type of things. So we want 100% focus behind the wheel because all of our families are out there, and we want to ensure that everybody has a safe holiday period.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.